Hello and welcome to IGTV. I'm Angeline Ong and this is your look ahead to the week starting the 20th of March 2023. First up on the diary, we've got a load of data coming out of China and also Germany. China, look out for the loan prime rate there, and from Germany, the producer price index, the latest reading of that. Then on Tuesday, we get the minutes from the last RBA meeting and public sector net borrowing details from the UK, which will be quite interesting given we have seen months of strike action across many sectors. From Germany, a big data point there and possible in and out point for traders, the ZEW economic sentiment indicator. Plus, from the US, we have existing home sales and crude oil inventories. These are the API ones. Moving swiftly on, midweek, we get the consumer price index details and producer price data from the UK, along with retail numbers as well. This should give us a clearer idea of whether or not that super sticky inflation is coming off those high levels. And from the US, we get a continuation of the oil trend with crude oil inventories from the EIA and a Fed interest rate decision as well. What might be more key will be what the Fed says about the ongoing banking crisis that we're seeing at the moment. However, markets have calmed down since many countries have said that they don't see any contagion just yet. And of course, we've seen authorities and central banks step in to ensure that banks have liquidity. We've also got the FOMC economic projections as well. Then on Thursday, the interest rate decision from the Bank of England, plus initial jobless claims and new home sales from the US, and the latest consumer confidence details from the Eurozone. Now, ahead of the Friday details, we've also got Japan Consumer Price Index figures and the GfK Consumer Confidence data from the UK, plus Eurozone, UK and US manufacturing flash PMI data. And don't forget, we've also got durable goods orders and the Baker Hughes oil rig count from the US. Now, as I mentioned, with us is our very special guest, IG's Chief Technical Analyst, Axel Rudolph. Thank you so much for joining us, Axel. ZEW, is that one of the key events that traders might want to look at for a trading opportunity?
Well, Angeline, with regards to Europe, certainly, but obviously it'll be in the background of the ongoing banking crisis, or whether that abates or whether we see contagion perhaps rear its head once again. So ZEW in that context maybe will have a back roll, but if markets were to quieten down, I believe that investors will look at what the economic sentiment in Germany actually says with regards to the outlook of the German economy. Now, when you look at the daily financial bet of the DAX 40 contract, we can see here that we've stabilized this week and are currently holding above the lows we made around 14,659 on the daily financial bet. But we haven't really managed to reverse the downside we've seen this week, and will probably still end up in negative territory for the week, that is. So we'll have to see whether next week that'll be the case again, or whether we can stabilize. But for this to happen, we would have to rise above the orange line here, the 55-day simple moving average at around 15,192, and more importantly, also the 14th of March high at 15,273. Because if I go onto a weekly chart, what's really interesting with regards to the DAX 40 is that the low we made just this week actually ties in with a support area going back to June of 2022 and also December of 2022. And as long as we hold above there, it's still possible that the uptrend we've seen since October of last year can still be maintained. Having said that, if we were to fail through that support area, then it would look pretty bleak for the DAX 40, and we could fall all the way back down again towards the low seen in December of last year, and also the 200-day simple moving average around the 13,700 to 13,600 area.
Interesting stuff, Axel. And as you rightly said, it is very much about how this global banking crisis unfolds as well. Of course, inflation. Christine Lagarde at that interest rate setting meeting where they put rates up by 50 basis points said that they're seeing some slight improvement in certain areas of underlying inflation. But she also added, frankly, not a lot. Now, a lot on the earnings front as well. Let's have a look at the diary here for you. We've got on Tuesday earnings from Nike and Kingfisher, full year earnings there, and third quarter earnings for Nike. Then on Wednesday, look out for details from Fevertree drinks. This is the mixer that has had quite a resurgence over lockdown, but then got hit by supply chain issues and also rising material costs. It's out with full year earnings. Vistry is also out with results as well, full year print there. And in the latter half of the week, we've got Wix and General Mills out with Q3 earnings. And looking at Friday, we end with pints, if you like, with JD Wetherspoon's earnings out with first half numbers there. So let's turn back to Axel now. Axel, Fevertree has been really interesting, hasn't it? It's really gone up and down since lockdown. First, benefiting from the resurgence of drinks and lockdown, and then gin as well, then being hit by all these supply chain issues and rising material costs such as glass.
Yes, exactly, Angeline. I mean, if you look at the weekly chart, which I've got on here, you can see that during the pandemic, everyone was drinking a little bit more perhaps than they did before the pandemic. And you could see the price of the Fevertree share price really rising quite dramatically. But then since January of last year, we've seen a very, very sharp fall in the share price. And we can see here basically year on year, we are down around 42%. But this year, we are basically trading flat in this sideways trading range. So what we need to do is really zoom in and look at the daily chart. And what we can see here, let me just make it slightly bigger so we can see this better, is that we are just trading sideways along this red line here, which is the 200-day simple moving average, around the 1,070 pence mark. And we'll have to see whether the full year results on Wednesday will change something with regards to this sideways trading range. If we were to be able to rise above the highs seen at the end of January, around 1,157 pence, then further upside is likely to be seen, taking us above the November highs at 1,210 pence towards the 1,300 pence area. So that's a distinct possibility. Having said that, if full year earnings were to disappoint, we may slide back again towards the late January low around 945 pence mark. So at the moment, nothing much is really happening with regards to the share price of Fevertree, but the earnings might give us a good indication what the future trend will be.
Right, thank you very much there. Fevertree, a really interesting one. Fevertree has said that because of Russia and Ukraine, it's expected to lift glass production costs by an extra $25 million this year. And many thanks to IG's Chief Technical Analyst, Axel Rudolph. Until we see you next week, have a great weekend, and whatever you're doing, hope it's profitable.